Hey guys, welcome to another episode of True Crimes and Weird Times. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
And today I'm going to be telling you about a castle that was built to block the gateway to hell.
And for my story, I'm sure we've all heard the joke about, a dingo took my baby. Well, today I am going to tell you the true story behind that joke. And if you're anything like me, you won't think it's very funny anymore by the time we're done.
Ooh.
On August 16th, 1980, the Chamberlain family left their home in the northern Queensland town of Mount Isa in Australia and headed down to Ayers Rock for a camping trip. The family was made up of Alice Lynn Murchison, who went by Lindy, her husband Michael Chamberlain, and their kids Aiden, who was 6, Reagan, who was 4, and Azaria, who was only 2 months old.
Ooh, props to her for going camping with 3 young kids.
Right? Whoa. I can't imagine going with one young child, let alone that many.
Wow.
Michael was a minister at their local Seventh-day Adventist church, and by all accounts, Lindy was a great mother who loved all of her kids so much.
No.
They arrived late that night, so they went ahead and set up camp and got back to bed for an early day of exploring the next day. The next morning, the 2 boys were out climbing over different rock formations, and Lindy had taken baby Azaria for a walk to a formation called Fertility Cave, which is where she spotted a dingo watching her.
Ooh.
Which, in case you've never seen one, a dingo is just basically a wild dog.
Yeah.
Later that night, the Chamberlain family was gathered around a fire with another young couple who was also camping with their infant.
Oh, wow.
Which, lots of brave parents
No
then,
kidding.
I guess. I don't know.
Especially in Australia.
And while they were, around the fire is when they spotted another dingo. And Michael actually threw some scraps of food to this one, like to feed it to entertain the boys.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Please don't do that.
Not too long after that, Lindy announced it was time to put Azaria to bed, and she headed off to their tent to get her settled next to 4-year-old Reagan, who was already sleeping.
Oh.
About 10 minutes later, she was back, and she rejoined everybody at the fire. However, around 8 p.m., she hears baby Azaria crying, and she goes to check on her. The next thing everyone hears is Lindy screaming, oh my God, the dingo's got my baby."
Oh, God.
Azaria was gone, and Lindy had actually seen a dingo exiting the tent on her way back to check on her.
Mm-hmm.
They, immediately call for help, and soon they had around 300 people out searching for baby Azaria.
Wow.
Inside the tent, they found some blood on the carpet. They found some dingo tracks outside the door, and they actually followed those tracks until they got too mingled with other prints and human footprints in order for them to keep tracking them.
Yeah.
And at a couple of different spots, even, they found an impression in the dirt that indicated some kind of small bundle had been sat down and left the impression of a knitted garment.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, we kind of know what that means.
Yeah.
But no other traces of baby Azaria were found that night.
This is already super awful.
Oh, yeah. This is a really hard story.
Yeesh.
I mean, anytime there is kids, it's a hard story for me.
Well, and it's really messing me up because this was before our time, and I've always heard the dingo ate my baby, and we all laugh, but oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's made jokes about it. I think Family Guy's done jokes about it.
Oh, yeah.
All these different comedy shows have done sketches on the dingo who took my baby, but I'm going to tell you why it became a joke to start with.
Okay.
So, like I said, that was all they found that night was the footprints and the impressions with the garment, the knitted garment in the dirt, until about a week later. And then about 2.5 miles from where the Chamberlains had been camping that night, a photographer actually stumbled across Azaria's shredded jumpsuit near a boulder just off an animal pass. There were bloodstains around the neck of the jumper. And now there's a few things I want to talk about in regards to these clothes, because they would later become a huge part of the prosecution's case.
Oh, wow.
So first of all, there was a onesie, a jumpsuit, and a diaper found at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
The scene, which was a mere 98 feet from a dingo's den.
Oh. So, I mean, it's pretty clear what's going on.
Well, yeah, it seems super obvious. A shredded baby clothes, and it's right outside a dingo den. Like, seems to pretty much line up with what people are saying so far.
Yeah, case closed.
Except for some police who get it in their heads that there's no way a dingo could have taken a baby. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
Now, the man who found the baby's clothes claimed that the entire jumpsuit was undone, like unbuttoned.
Okay.
And that the clothes were kind of laying near each other, but they were all separated from each other.
Huh.
Like the jumpsuit was next to the onesie, and, the diaper was over here, but they were all grouped together.
Right.
However, when Constable Frank Morris arrived at the scene, he claimed that only the top 4 buttons of the jumpsuit were undone. He claimed that the onesie was still inside the jumpsuit.
Uh-huh.
Also, the onesie was inside out inside the jumpsuit.
Huh.
He also, by his own account, picked up the clothes to check for human remains before laying them back down and then photographing them.
Come on. Well,
Yeah,
just ruined that.
Just walk in there and pick up all the clothes.
Yeah. Good job, bud.
Also, this is important to remember for later.
Okay.
Lindy says that Azaria had also been wearing a matinee jacket, which is basically like this little knit cardigan.
Oh, okay.
That she had, like a sweater.
Yeah.
And she was wearing that over her jumpsuit, but that had not been found with the other clothes.
Okay.
Now, Lindy kept, telling them, hey, there's another jacket. It's not here.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to her clothing that you didn't find. And everyone's just kind of basically saying, oh, whatever. There wasn't any more clothes.
Sir Lindy.
Yeah. Now, like I said, some of the officers did not believe Lindy's story. In fact, they just scoffed at the idea of a dingo attacking a baby simply because it had never happened before.
Well, it's a wild animal. What do they expect?
I also read that some of the aboriginals nearby had been reporting increased aggressiveness in the dingoes. Like they had been telling people, hey, they're getting braver. They're getting more aggressive. Like you should do something or let people know.
Well, there you go.
And they were just kind of brushed off.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
So because the police didn't believe her, they're like, it's a dingo. It didn't take your baby. You killed your baby. They shifted the focus of the case to Lindy murdering her child and using the dingo story as a cover.
Well, that would be quite a cover-up.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to do there for that to be her murdering her baby.
And now, experiments were conducted to find proof that this could even happen. Stuff like dead dingoes that had been shot in the area were dissected, looking for human remains.
Wow.
Dingoes were thrown meat wrapped in diapers so they could compare it to the one that they found of Azaria.
What?
They tested, trace evidence from the clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now there were rumors flying that the parents were involved. Everyone knows that they're looking at Lindy.
Yeah.
And the media doesn't help. They also kind of laugh at her from the very beginning. As soon as they hear her story, they're like, ha ha ha, she came up with the dumbest story ever. A dingo took your baby.
God, that's awful.
I know. It's heartbreaking. But that's kind of where the joke started.
Yeah.
Everyone's just kind of like, oh, haha, yeah, a dingo took your baby.
Wow.
But in the meantime, this poor mother has just lost her 2-month-old daughter.
Well, to a wild dog that she probably saw leaving the tent.
Yup.
Jeez.
So on December 16th, 1980, a magistrate and coroner of Alice Springs named Dennis Barrett would conduct what would become one of 3 coroner's inquests into the death of Azaria Chamberlain. He concluded that Azaria was in fact killed by a wild dingo, but because of inconsistencies with the clothing, the things I was talking about earlier with, he said they were all separate, but the police said that they were still together and only an adult could have taken them off that way.
Right.
Because of this, the coroner went on to say that the body was disposed of by an unknown person or persons.
What?
So he basically said, yeah, a dingo killed the baby, but because of this evidence with the clothes, I can only conclude that a person took these clothes off the baby because of the way they were put back on the ground.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. But it was because of the cop picking them up and laying them down that he's coming to this conclusion.
Right. The cop who definitely didn't, button the clothes back up and put the onesie inside the jumpsuit, inside out for that matter.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. Now, even though we have this kind of asshole cop who has tampered with evidence at this point, we still had, the coroner's inquest saying that the baby was killed by a dingo. So you think, okay, that'd be the end of it.
Right.
But nope.
Jeez.
These investigators were convinced that Lindy had killed her baby, and they were going to prove it.
Oh, of course. Okay.
So on September 19th of 1981, officers conducted a 4.5-hour search of the Chamberlain home.
What?
I also want to point out, this was over a full year after the baby had disappeared that they carry out this search.
Well, even if she did have something to do with it, the evidence is gone by now.
Right, exactly. Well, nope, not exactly. Because the police seized over 300 items.
What?
Including clothing, scissors, and the family car.
What?
The investigators claimed that the search was prompted by findings by a forensic specialist in London named James Cameron, who concluded from the clothing that a dingo had not been involved in the infant's death.
Oh, come on. What?
And something that Lindy herself pointed out, there's a dingo expert in London.
That was my question.
Where no dingoes live? What?
What? Come on.
Okay. We'll just say, okay, sure, there is a dingo expert in London.
Okay.
Then in November of 1981, Chief Minister Everingham made a motion to quash the first inquests based off new evidence.
Oh, come on.
Oh, the new evidence is going to make you super angry.
I'm sure it will.
Investigators claim that they found large amounts of blood in the family car.
What?
Now, they came to this conclusion by testing for fetal hemoglobin, which is a specific type of hemoglobin found in newborns that helps oxygen travel from the mother's blood to the infant while in utero.
Okay.
Now, here's the problem with this test. It's not forensically reliable.
Huh.
Because later tests showed the same results after testing the sound deadener spray that goes inside all of these cars during manufacturing. And you can also produce similar results with everything from mucus to chocolate milkshakes.
Oh, lovely. Great.
And I mean, what mom of 3 kids has never had a chocolate milkshake in the car?
Right. Or had a snotty-nosed kid.
Right? Yeah. It could have been literally anything.
Yep.
Literally the stuff they spray the cars with when they make them.
Wow.
They also claimed that there had been evidence in the clothing to suggest that her throat had been cut and that the clothing was actually shredded with scissors and not with dingo teeth.
Uh-huh. It seems to me like they're really stretching.
They really are. I'm going to lay out their whole scenario for you, and you are just going to laugh.
Oh, perfect.
So the results of the new inquest went along with police findings, and Lindy Chamberlain was taken to trial for murder, with her husband Michael charged with accessory after the fact.
This is absolutely crazy.
Now, despite the lack of evidence, motive, body, or eyewitnesses, because they all corroborated Lindy's story, by the way, prosecution presented a case in which Lindy takes Azaria not to bed in the tent, but she only takes her in there while Lindy herself changes clothes. She then takes the baby to the car where she allegedly cuts Azaria's throat with the scissors.
Okay.
She then hides the body in a camera case in the car. Cleaned up all traces of blood anywhere.
So you have to be really good to do that.
Changed back into her clothes. Grabbed some baked beans from the car for her other son.
Jeez.
Returned to the tent to plant some blood in there.
What?
And brought her son Aiden back from the tent where he was supposed to be waiting for her through all of this. Because, he was actually with her.
Oh,
And then she went back and sat back down at the fire with no one having any clue what she had done, all in the span of 10 minutes.
When would she have had time to do any of that? Any of it?
I don't understand how they ever thought this was reasonable. And also, there were witnesses who testified that they heard a baby cry after she supposedly murdered it, according to their timeline.
Oh my God.
Now, there's more quote-unquote evidence that they had that I could list out for you, but those were the main points of the case, what they were said would happen.
Yeah, that's plenty. I don't need any more from them. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And despite this evidence being mostly circumstantial, on October 29th, 1982, a jury found both parents guilty.
What?
Lindy was sentenced to life in prison while Michael's sentence was suspended.
Oh my God.
1 month after Lindy's sentence began, she gave birth to her second daughter, who she named Kalia.
Oh.
Lindy Chamberlain was in prison for over 3 years before any new evidence emerged.
What? Any new evidence? That's ridiculous. Okay. Sorry.
Yep. So in January of 1986, a hiker named David Brett fell off of Ayers Rock during a climb, which, that's where the family had been camping with baby Azaria.
Right.
Now, tragically, the fall killed David Brett when he fell.
Oh.
But 8 days later, when his body was discovered below the bluff near a large area of dingo lairs, police were searching for missing bones that may have been carried off by dingoes when they found something else. It was an infant-sized matinee jacket.
Oh.
The same jacket that Azaria had been wearing the night she died.
Wow.
The one that prosecution claimed never even existed in the first place. Thanks to this evidence being found and the blood evidence, which is now showing to most likely be the sound deadening spray, Lindy was released from prison on February 2nd, 1986.
Wow. She had already spent 4 years there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she'd been in there a really long time.
Wow.
Especially for a crime you didn't commit.
Yeah.
Then later, after an extensive review of the prosecution's investigation and trial, all convictions against Michael and Lindy Chamberlain were quashed.
Well, good.
2 years after the exoneration, the Chamberlains were also awarded $1.3 million in compensation for wrongful imprisonment.
Ugh.
Which sounds super impressive until you find out it covered less than 1/3 of the family's legal expenses from this. Which is just infuriating. Like, they're going to spend the rest of their life paying off having to go to jail after they lost their daughter. Like,
for something they didn't do.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
Yes. In 1995, the third inquest into Azaria's death came back as cause and manner of death unknown.
Oh, come on.
Finally, in 2012,
wow,
a fourth and final inquest was held that finally ruled cause of death as attacked and taken by a dingo.
Jeez.
32 years after her death.
That's insane. That's ridiculous. even after being proven, like, they found it in the dingo's lair, they still waited that long.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they released her from prison years ago.
Absurd.
Nobody likes to be wrong, I guess.
No, I guess not.
Today, over 250 items related to Lindy's disappearance are housed in the National Museum of Australia, including things like her birth records, hospital bracelets, some of her clothing, and a whole lot more stuff.
Wow.
All of which Lindy Chamberlain herself helped document.
Oh, wow. At least something good came out of it? Not really.
Yeah. After that, I think they started taking dingoes a lot more seriously.
Well, yeah. That's ridiculous. Well, now I'm angry. Thanks for that.
And you're mad that you've been laughing at a joke that's not funny for years.
That's part of it, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
The whole story is just heartbreaking. To lose your baby and then have to go through all that on top of it.
Yeah.
And then not even get to see your next child, for the first 2 or 3 years of her life because she gave birth in prison.
Well, she missed all of that baby stuff, like from 2 of her kids, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it is so awful. And this story was tough.
Yeah. Houska Castle is located in the Czech Republic, about 30 miles from Prague. It was said to have been built in the late 13th century, and it's a Gothic-style castle and was actually built as pretty much an administrative building. It was where royal estates could be managed, and later it would be passed between the aristocracy, and it was frequently handed over to different owners. But when it was built, there was really nobody to occupy the castle. But it doesn't really sound like it was an amazing place to live. The castle itself was built in a place that was just like in the middle of a bunch of forests, swamps, mountains. There were no fortifications built outside of the castle. It doesn't sound like there's an easy way to get to the castle, so it's not like, and there's nobody there to live in it, so it's not like there's anyone around who's going to try to overtake the castle.
Who are they keeping out?
Well, it's more about who they're keeping in. There was no source of water. Like, there was no river or anything nearby, or no wells. So you had to collect rainwater. There wasn't even a kitchen. So good luck. And it was also too far away from any trade routes or any towns.
This sounds like a terrible place to build a castle.
It does. But in the late 1500s, it was actually renovated to be similar to more of a Renaissance style. But it still wasn't livable until about the 18th century. So it sat there for centuries with nobody in it.
Man, I bet that would have been cool to walk through, though.
Oh, I'm sure. But even after then, it exchanged hands a couple of times. And in 1924, Joseph Simonek, who was the president of Skoda. Have you ever heard of Skoda?
I don't know what Skoda is.
Okay. Maybe it's just me. If you live in Skoda and you're listening to the podcast, 1, hello. And 2, let me know where that is. Anyway, he bought the castle and it has just remained in his family line to this day, like currently. Now, during World War II, the Wehrmacht, who were Nazis, occupied the castle until 1945. Now, it was said that these Nazis actually conducted experiments at the castle, and it was also said that they used the powers of hell for their experiments. Now, I tried to find out more about these experiments because who doesn't love Nazi experiments?
I would really like to know what kind of experiments they used the powers of hell for.
Right? Well, now, remember, Nazis were looking over everything and they were really deep into the occult. So whatever they were looking for or experimenting on had to be like hardcore.
Especially if they did it way out in the middle of a swamp.
I know. Anyway, I tried to find some of that and I couldn't find anything. And actually, what I did end up finding was from a Reddit user, Drewlicious, who had asked the same question and somebody replied, that person's now deleted. So, but they basically what they said is I mean, it was just kind of an outpost, but most of the paperwork after World War II ended was destroyed. So any other paperwork really just said that, hey, this is an outpost, and that's that.
So no one can really say what it was.
So no one can really say. And it could just be possible that it's just rumors because, again, Nazis experiments. Sounds pretty cool. So in 1990, Houska Castle actually was opened to the public to visit and tour. And I figured since we weren't getting tickets to Prague anytime soon,
I would totally go to Prague to see this castle.
That would be amazing. I took it upon myself to look online and just kind of get a look-see of the castle. One, it looks really creepy. I love it already. But when you go in, there's like tons of frescoes painted throughout the castle. One of the more famous ones is a man being mauled by a bear, which was pretty cool.
We're definitely going to post these on social media, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I read some articles stating that some of these frescoes actually depict demon-like figures and animal-like creatures. But when I was looking at them, they kind of just look like medieval animals, if that makes sense. Like that weird
that style
painting
of
style.
drawing.
Yeah. Now, there were some weird-looking ones, don't get me wrong. But most of them looked like just regular medieval-style painting animals. There was also a painting of the Archangel Michael, who was fighting a dragon. And there's another one where he's at the Last Judgment holding scales.
Like dragon scales or like the scales?
Oh, no,
scales?
like judgment scales. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah. Sorry. I didn't even think about a dragon.
I just thought maybe he defeated it and was bringing the scales with him as something.
My gosh, that'd be cool. But now I'm thinking of Dragon Tales off PBS.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry. Tangent. So, according to a ghost tour site that I found, I know that's not a credible source, but I had to post it because I liked it. It's McGee's Ghost Tours. There's also a painting of a half woman, half horse figure, which I actually did find a picture of, and I'll share it. She has a bow and an arrow, which is aimed at a human. Now, is this half woman, half horse a centaur? Which I guess is possible, right?
I mean, that's what I was picturing.
Yeah. But this painting of a centaur is in the chapel wall of the castle, which is already weird because since when have they painted centaurs on chapel walls?
Yeah, that's a really weird spot for it.
Yeah. But she's also left-handed, which, as you know, if you're left-handed, you are definitely a demon.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of a centaur, maybe it's a depiction of one of the creatures from the pit inside the castle?
There's a pit inside the castle?
There sure is. The creepiest part of this castle seems to be the chapel, again, that this painting is painted on, that was built over what many people claim to be the gates of hell itself. Now, legend says that the castle, specifically this chapel area, was actually built to enclose a pit that leads you straight to hell. Now, this pit was so large and deep that no one was ever able to find the bottom.
That seems like kind of a reckless building decision to put something there then.
I feel like, I feel like maybe this isn't very sturdy.
Yeah.
Maybe not great foundation. People actually claim to have seen animal and human type creatures crawling out of this pit. Some have claimed to see a bullfrog human hybrid, a headless horse. Yeah. I don't know what that would look like, by the way.
I can't even make it happen in my head.
So, like, is it a bullfrog head with a human body? Or is it like a bullfrog head and torso and human legs? Or is it a human head with... Does it jump like a frog?
Yes, it's a human head, a frog torso, and human arms and frog legs.
Oh, perfect. That's it. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Got it. Welcome.
They've also seen a headless horse. But, I mean, who hasn't? An old woman, but I wasn't really certain if she's like a ghost or just some old lady running around the forest. So, I just heard an old woman.
And nobody helped her. It's just some poor lady who fell in.
She's probably running from that bullfrog.
Probably. Poor grandma. Nobody got her out of the pit.
The frogs. And also remains of a, quote, demonic beast who have escaped the pit. So just random demon bones, I guess.
How do they know they're demon bones?
Because they don't look like humans.
Oh, right. That's the only kind of bones that there are.
Also, some have heard screams and howls in the forest surrounding the castle, but it's also a forest, so...
I've heard screams and howls in the forest surrounding my house.
I was going to say, we live in the South and bobcats are a thing.
Also foxes.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Foxes are terrifying at night.
Yeah.
Owls. There's so many creepy things in the forest.
It's clearly demons.
Right, not animals.
And your house is on another portal to hell.
Noted. We'll do an episode on it one day.
Awesome. Also, according to the Dark Tourist website, there are actually claims that cars sometimes fail to start if they're near the castle, so the castle's haunted. And visitors have claimed to hear a, quote, chorus of screams, and they also hear scratching underneath the chapel floorboards. That one's kind of freaky, though.
Could be rats.
No, it's demons.
Oh, sorry.
Gates of hell. Others claim to have seen dark winged creatures flying out and around the pit, but, I mean, bats, I would assume. It depends on how big they are, I guess.
There's some pretty big bats out there.
Okay, so it's probably bats, honestly. But the one that gets me the most is there's actually a legend that tells about when they were building this castle in order to have people to build it, because who wants to be around the gates of hell, they would offer prisoners who had been sentenced to death pardons if they volunteered to be lowered into this pit so that they could tell them what they saw. So I think I would just rather die in prison.
I think I would die in prison.
But it depends on how bad prison is. I don't know. So when the first prisoner was being lowered into the pit, he started screaming after only like 30 seconds. And of course they hurried and tried to pull him back up. And when they pulled him back up, he looked as though he had aged 30 years. His hair had turned white, his skin was wrinkled, his face was pale, and of course he was terrified. He claimed that he saw half man, half human beasts in the pit, and then apparently died 2 days later at an asylum. Like, he just went mad.
That's the most cliched story I've ever heard.
Are you telling me that doesn't sound real?
No, I wouldn't do that.
That doesn't sound like you.
Don't want to crush
Kim.
your dreams.
That doesn't sound like you at all. So, was the castle actually not built to conduct business or to be used as a residence, but to actually close off the supposed portal to hell? I'll tell you. In the book Wonders of Bohemia, it said that the defensive walls were actually facing inward, and normally on any other castle they're facing outward. So, it's possible that they're trying to keep something trapped within the castle.
Okay, I have no explanation for that one. It's pretty good.
See? And because, Kim, we're Doctor Who fans, I'm just going to throw in a little bit of pop culture. Houska Castle was actually the basis of a Doctor Who novel titled Herald of Madness in 2019, and is actually set in the castle.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm going to have to go find that book.
Yeah, same.
So that is the castle that is built on top of the pits of hell.
Maybe they just thought it was the pit of hell. Like, maybe they just found a really deep cave opening, like they went straight down.
Pits of hell.
And they were like, oh, gates of hell, better just in case, build this castle.
I mean, honestly, think about the time.
I really think it's possible.
Yeah. It was probably a lot of superstition. But I still can't figure out that bullfrog-human hybrid. I can't tell you.
It's gonna haunt my dreams in every combination.
Someone's gonna have to draw this. Someone's gonna have to sketch this out for me. I need to see it.
If someone can please draw us a bullfrog human hybrid. Send it in to us.
However your mind sees it, that's what I want to see. I'm gonna have to see this.
Even if you can't draw, send us your drawing.
Please. Thanks for listening.
Like us on Facebook at True Crimes and Weird Times Podcast.
Follow us on Instagram at True Crimes Weird Times.
Email us your stories at truecrimesweirdtimes@gmail.com.
And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave a review.
Bye.